Ancient Egypt did not think the sun came back on its own. They thought it came back because somebody did the work. Every day in the temple of Amun at Karnak, priests carried out a ritual whose stated purpose was not to celebrate the sunrise, but to protect it, to keep the sun from failing to come back. And this is not a guess about what they believed. They wrote the procedure down, the words to say, the figure to make, and exactly what to do to it. That document survives in a museum in London. One warning first, because it decides how much weight any of this can carry. The copy we have is late. It was written a few hundred years before the Common Era, at the very end of Egypt's own history, more than 2,000 years after Egypt started thinking about this. So when I say Egypt believed something, I will tell you which Egypt and when and how we know. Where the evidence is thin, I will say so out loud. Start where they started, at sunset. To an Egyptian, the sun was not a light. It was a body, and it aged in front of you. In the morning, it is a child. At midday, it is at full strength. By evening, it is an old man, and the texts describe him that way, tired, with the day behind him. And that is not a modern summary. It is Egyptian. In one text, the sun god says it himself. I am Khepri in the morning, Ra at noon, and Atum in the evening. Be careful with how neat that sounds. Those are not three gods on a shift rota. They are one god, described at 3 points in his own life. And Egyptian religion is comfortable in a way ours is not, with a god being several things at once. What is consistent is the shape. The sun is born, it ages, and in the evening it goes down into the west, and it dies. And then the important part, it goes somewhere. They did not imagine the sun switching off and waiting. They imagined a night shift. The sun enters a region under the world called the Duat, and it has to cross the whole length of it in darkness and come out the other side by morning. The Duat is not hell. Nobody is being punished there. It is closer to a country, with a border and a river and gates. It is full of the dead, and something is waiting in it. Here is where this stops being a story and starts being evidence. Egypt did not merely believe the sun crossed the underworld at night. Egypt mapped it, hour by hour, with labels. There is a text Egyptologists call the Amduat, the Book of the Hidden Chamber. It divides the night into 12 hours and tells you what is in each one, who the sun meets, what blocks the way, what has to be said. It reads less like a myth than like a route description with the hazards marked. And one of the earliest complete copies is not on a scroll, it is painted on the walls of a tomb. Thutmose III was buried in the Valley of the Kings in the 15th century before the Common Era, and his burial chamber carries the whole 12 hours in 3 bands, running one above the other. Not as decoration. The chamber is shaped like a giant cartouche, the oval Egyptians drew around a royal name, and the figures are in plain outline, in a style that imitates papyrus. It looks like a working document, because that is what it is. A scribe copied it onto a wall, rather than a painter decorating one. In the room before it, there is a list of 741 gods you might meet. Somebody stood in that room 3,500 years ago and wrote out the entire night, in order, with a cast list, so the king would know the way. The sun travels by water, because in Egypt, Everything traveled by water. The Nile was the road. So of course the sun crosses the sky in a boat, and of course it changes boats at sunset. The day boat is Manjet, the night boat is Meshektet, and he does not look the same in both. By day he is shown with the head of a falcon, and for the crossing under the world he is given the head of a ram. He is also not making the trip alone or effortlessly. The boat gets towed. There are gangs of figures on ropes in these paintings, and in the Amduat the haulers are gods, 7 of them and 7 goddesses. But Egypt wrote more than one map of the night, and in the other one something remarkable happens on that rope. The second text is called the Book of Gates. In its 3rd hour, as the boat crosses a lake of fire, the sun god calls out to the mummies. He tells them to unwrap themselves. He gives them breath and offerings, and he puts them on the tow line. Being dead in Egypt was not a retirement, it was a posting, and the hope, written into spell after spell, was to be taken aboard that boat and to come back out with him in the morning. Think about what that does to a funeral. Your father is not gone. Your father is on the rope. There is a serpent aboard too, coiled protectively around the god himself. His name is Mehen, the coiled one, and he is on your side. Egypt guarded the sun from a snake by wrapping a snake around it. Because the thing waiting in the water is also a serpent, and almost nobody calls it by its actual name. You have probably heard him called Apophis. That is Greek. The Egyptian name, as far as we can reconstruct the consonants, is closer to Apep. Apophis is what happens when Greek speakers, arriving late in Egypt's history, write down an Egyptian word, and it happened to almost every name you know from this pantheon. Osiris, Horus, Isis, Anubis. Greek shapes for Egyptian names. The most famous monster in Egyptian religion is usually called by a name no Egyptian ever said. So what is he? He appears in the written record from the Middle Kingdom onward, so this is an anxiety at least 4,000 years old. And the easy answer is the wrong one. He is not the Egyptian devil. Egypt does not have a devil, because Egypt is not having that argument. There is no war between a good god and an evil god over your soul. What Egypt has instead is a pair of words. One is Ma'at, order, truth, balance, the way things are supposed to run. The other is Isfet, which is disorder and injustice and violence. And Apep is Isfet with a body. Here is the part that is genuinely alien to us. Those two are not enemies in the sense that one is supposed to win. Egyptian thinking treats them as a matched pair in which neither can exist without the other. So he is not evil in the sense of wicked. He is evil in the sense of a river flooding a city. He is the standing possibility that things stop working. And he waits in the one place the sun cannot go around. The 7th hour of the night is the emergency. Apep is lying across the way ahead on a sandbank directly in front of the boat, and he has drunk the water. He has not attacked the hull. He has swallowed the river the boat was traveling on, so there is nothing left to travel on, and it happens at the furthest possible point from either shore. The threat is not a monster strong enough to sink the sun. It is the removal of the thing that made movement possible. He does not attack the boat, he attacks the medium. He is not an animal you could fight. He is closer to a landscape that has decided to move. So nobody fights him the way a hero fights. Gods pin him with chains and ropes. Others go at him with knives. They cut until the water comes back and the boat goes on. It reads less like a battle than like a crew putting out a fire at sea. Everybody has a task, and nobody expects it to be over. Now look at who Egypt puts on that crew. Isis, arms stretched out, working magic on the serpent. Beside her, Serket, whose emblem is a scorpion. And at the front of the boat, holding a spear, Set. If you know one Egyptian villain, it is Set. He is the one who kills Osiris, and there is a video on this channel about exactly that. Egypt put him at the prow anyway, and he is good there precisely because of what he is. Set is violence, and the desert, and the storm. Terrible things to have in your house. Excellent things to have at the prow when something is coming out of the water. Which is the most useful thing to understand about Egyptian gods. They have no fixed alignments. They are forces, and a force is judged by where you point it. The murderer in one story is the bodyguard in another, and Egypt felt no need to resolve that for you. Egypt's answer to the thing that stops the sun is a murderer, a sorceress, and a scorpion. And one more defender, far less famous and much stranger. Spell 17 of the Book of the Dead has a line that is easy to read straight past. I am the cat, it says, who split the sacred tree at Heliopolis on the night the enemies of the Lord of everything were destroyed. The sun god takes the form of a cat, and they painted it in the tomb of a man called Inherkau at Deir el-Medina, the village where the workmen who cut the royal tombs lived with their families. There is a cat on the wall holding a knife, dealing with a serpent at the foot of a tree. The same scene turns up in his neighbors' tombs. Be precise about what that proves. It is a spell and a picture, not a scene from one agreed epic. And this video is assembled from documents written centuries apart. But it tells you something true about the register these people thought in. This is the same civilization that kept cats in its houses to deal with snakes and vermin. They took the ordinary household solution to the ordinary problem and put it at the center of the universe. The sun defends itself the way a kitchen does. Which brings us to the part Egypt did not leave to the gods at all. Everything so far is what Egypt thought was happening out there. Here is what Egypt thought its own job was. There is a papyrus in the British Museum known as Bremner Rind after the two men who owned it, and part of it is a text called The Book of Overthrowing Apep. It is not a story, it is instructions. It has the words to be spoken against the serpent and the physical actions to go with them. Make a figure of him. Wax is what the tradition specifies, and other materials turn up too, including simply drawing him on a fresh sheet of papyrus. Write his name on it, because the name is the part that matters, and we are coming back to that. Then spit on it, trample it underfoot, cut it with a blade, and put it in the fire. And we know where this happened. The temple of Amun Ra at Karnak, which you can still walk around today. Not once a year at a festival, part of the daily service alongside the ordinary offerings for generations. Now the caveat I promised you in the first minute. The manuscript is late. It was copied around 300 BC when Greek kings ruled Egypt, and the pyramids were already more ancient to them than they are to us. If I held that papyrus up and called it what the Egyptians believed, I would be doing the exact thing this channel gets corrected for. So here is the honest version. The copy is late, the habit is not. Destroying an enemy by making a figure of him, writing his name on it and wrecking it, is attested in Egypt from the 6th dynasty, more than 2,000 years before this papyrus. There are clay statuettes of bound figures with the names cut into their chests. At one fortress in Nubia, excavators found hundreds of smashed red pots and hundreds of mud figures. A late copy of a very old habit. And the habit was this: every single day for centuries, somebody in Egypt made a model of the end of the world and burned it. Why write the name on it? Because in Egypt, a name was not a label, it was a part. A person came in components. The body was one, the shadow was one. There were elements of what we would loosely translate as a soul, and the name, the Ren, was one of them. Not a convenience for other people, an actual constituent piece of an actual being. Which means that for as long as your name existed and was spoken aloud, part of you existed. That is why Egyptians filled their tombs with their own names over and over, on the walls, on the coffin, on the offering table. It was not vanity, it was maintenance. A tomb is a machine for keeping a name in circulation. And it runs in reverse. If writing a name sustains a thing, then chiseling a name out of stone attacks the thing itself. Egypt did that to people it wanted gone, and the erasures are still there on the walls, which is precisely how we can tell who somebody wanted forgotten. Now, did they mean that literally, or was it a figure of speech that got carved a lot? They meant it literally, and we know because they told a story to prove it. Isis wants power. And she works out that the way to get it is to learn the sun god's secret name, not his titles, the real one underneath. So she takes his own spittle where it has fallen, mixes it with earth, and shapes it into a serpent. It bites him. And the poison goes through the God who made the world, and there is nothing he can do about it. He is old, he is in agony. The only one who can cure him is standing right there, and she names her price. He tries to pay in titles. I am the maker of heaven and earth, he says. I am the one who made the waters. He gives her the whole list, everything he is called. And she waits. Because what he is called is not what he is named. Eventually it gets bad enough, and he gives her the name. And the moment she has it, she has him. Egypt wrote that down around 1200 BC, and the copies came out of the same workman's village as the cat with the knife. The same people, in the same generation, kept both of those ideas in their houses. So go back and look at the ritual. These are not people doing something arbitrary to a lump of wax. They are applying their own theory of what a being is made of, correctly and consistently. A pep has a name. The name is a piece of him. Write it down and the piece is on your table. Then destroy the piece. On its own terms, that is not superstition. It is engineering. And the reason it had to be done again the next morning is the whole point of this video. Before the night ends, I have to take you back an hour, because the most important thing that happens down there happened before the fight. Not the 7th hour, the 6th, midnight. At the exact bottom of the night, the sun god reaches his own corpse. That is not a metaphor I am adding. The traveling part of Ra rejoins the body lying there, which is Osiris, ruler of the dead, and for a moment they are one thing. And each of them gets something out of it. The dead get light, the sun gets the capacity to be new again. Egypt has put the turning point of every single day at the moment the sun touches a corpse. Whatever else is happening in that image, it is a flat refusal to let the living and the dead be separate businesses. The sun cannot come back without going through the dead, which is, conveniently, the best possible news for whoever is lying in the coffin this text is painted on. So the real order of the night is this: he dies in the west, he goes down. At midnight he meets his own body and is renewed, and then, already renewed, he still has to get past the serpent. The fight is not the climax. The fight is what stands between the renewal and the way out. Then the 12th hour, and the crossing turns into a birth. The body that went into the west as an old man comes out of the east as a child. Egypt drew this on tomb ceilings and inside coffin lids as a woman arched right over the world. She is the sky, and her name is Nut. She swallows the sun in the evening and gives birth to it in the morning. The same sky does both, which makes swallowing and birth one event seen from opposite ends. And she is painted facing inward on the lid so that she is looking directly at the body once the coffin is closed. Then morning. Ordinary, unremarkable morning, the kind that has happened every day of your life. Egypt did not think it was unremarkable. Here is what makes this different from almost every myth you know. Nobody wins. Apep is cut apart in the 7th hour, and he is back the following night. Not because the gods failed, because that is what he is. He is not a villain with a plot that can be defeated. He is the standing possibility of failure, and you do not permanently defeat the possibility of failure. You hold it off today, and then the sun goes down again. So the ritual is daily. It has to be. A one-time victory would not fit the thing being fought. And this is Egypt's actual idea, the one underneath the animal heads and the gold. Ma'at, order, is not a prize somebody won at the beginning of the world. It is a job. It needs the river to flood correctly, and the fields measured, and the courts to judge honestly, and the sun brought back, and all of it done again the next day, and the day after that. They built a civilization that lasted 3,000 years on the belief that nothing keeps working by itself. I do not think they were right about the serpent. I think they were right about the rest of it. The next time you watch a sunrise, you are watching the one event ancient Egypt refused to take for granted. They got up in the dark every day for centuries and did the work and wrote it down so we would know they had done it. And the sun came up. There are more of these. Subscribe, and the next one finds you on its own.